Okay, so for exercise 3, we're going to do exactly what we just did, but now we have to move to the A minor, and we'll repeat this 4 times. So it'll be that C pattern. Here comes a transition to the A minor. Okay, so this gets tricky, even though it's a simple chord thing, but you're going to be really exposed. So be thinking about, how do you get from this chord that you've probably played 1 billion times to this chord, right? It's like, well, I know these chords. Well, think about, what fingers can I leave down to keep my tone consistent? So when I look down and see the C chord, my first and second finger, they don't have to move to get to the A minor. That will help make a more consistent sound. So I'm thinking about the transition and keeping these 2 fingers down and then just putting my third finger. That's the move, right? So it'll be like, and you will get a couple squeaks in there, and this is super isolated. There's like nothing else going on. It's just me and the guitar. Those kind of string squeaks, that just comes with playing guitar. And if you're in the studio doing something, recording, if you hear stuff like that, it's usually not that big of a deal, because when other parts get layered on, you're not going to hear that. But if you're playing alone with just you and a singer-songwriter, and that's all it is a guitar part and a voice, you want to really think about those kind of transitions. Some of the squeaking, I like it because it sounds like a human being playing guitar, but you want to be careful with it. So when I was playing this, I was being really mindful of my pressure and being consistent with, I'll try to play it and explain it. I want the pressure on my first and second finger to stay constant. And I don't want to be squeezing too hard with this third finger, because when I lift it, it's going to make a noise. So I'm thinking about, I want fingers 1 and 2 to be the same, and I want to just scoot that in there. See, and when I come off of that, I don't want to be too aggressive with it, or it's going to make a big noise. So, but take the time to practice some of this, so your left hand gets a little more quiet than it probably normally is. And when you start to feel really confident with the awareness you have with the left hand and what fingers are going where and how much pressure to apply, and the right hand is getting consistent with tone, volume, the next challenge is to start playing with dynamics, where you can start quiet and then bring in some dynamics. It's hard to do, to be able to control your hands that much, and that's not something that I would suggest that you try to do too soon. Just try to keep everything nice and even. Okay, now in exercise 4, we have to make that transition faster. So we don't have 2 bars of C, 2 bars of A minor. So that move I was just talking about with the pressure and the consistency on the left hand, it really comes into play now because the chords come quicker. So this one would be that same pattern. So the way that I'm thinking about this, again, I know that fingers 1 and 2 need to maintain the pressure. So I'm just thinking about this little pivot. I don't know if you can see this from the side, but I'm keeping the pressure, not letting my fingers roll, and I'm just making enough room to get that E minor, or that third finger on that A note for the... So even though my first finger's moving a little bit, I'm not relieving the pressure, okay? So let's try that again. And again, slower. Okay, so let's look at number 5. This is where it gets a little bit harder, because now the thumb still gets to travel to the 4th string like before, right? But now we have to make this jump. We're going to reverse the right hand pattern to the 3rd finger. Instead of going thumb 1, 2, 3, we'll go thumb 3, 2, 1. So it'll look and sound like this. And it is pretty tough to not disturb that 1st string. You're going from a really strong finger with your thumb to trying to find that string with your 3rd finger, hit it, and get out of the way so your 2nd finger can come in. So on the right hand, I'm kind of like striking, not curling my finger up into my palm, but I'm playing and getting it out of the way. So my right hand is kind of consistently like this. I'm trying to maintain this shape. Not like you're holding a tennis ball or anything, but when I strike with my 3rd finger, I don't want it to get in the way of the 2nd string, but I want it kind of coming up and getting out of the way. I don't know if that makes sense, but your 2nd finger has to get in there, and you don't want to touch the 1st string with your 2nd finger, and then you kind of get the 2nd finger out of the way. This is hard because the 3rd finger is weak and the 1st finger is strong. So a lot of times people will go like this: good strong attack, kind of note disappears, note gets stronger, and then it gets really strong, kind of jumps out like that. You want to just, again, if you get your wrist up a little, you'll get a more consistent contact with the string. And then when you get feeling pretty comfortable with that, you can start playing around with speeding it up a little bit. And these are great little exercises to do with a metronome too. It'll help with your timing and your rhythm. And you just kind of get in this meditative place where you're just focusing on the beat and focusing so much on the right and the left hand that you just kind of get into this great little zone with it.